Ripple and the SEC try to finally close the book on their years-long legal battle. But Judge Analisa Torres said no. On May 15th, Judge Torres rejected a joint motion by Ripple and the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to amend the court's earlier judgment. The motion, filed just a week earlier, aimed to eliminate a permanent ban on Ripple's institutional sales of XRP and reduce Ripple's penalty from $125 million to $50 million. Both sides had agreed. The SEC, now under new leadership, was ready to move on. Ripple was ready too, but Judge Torres wasn't having it. She said the request was filed incorrectly and didn't meet the legal requirements to change a final judgment. That means the ban and the full $125 million penalty still stand for now. So what happened here? And what does it mean for XRP investors? Let's break it down. First, let's talk about the motion itself. On May 8th, Ripple and the SEC filed a joint request asking the court to revise its earlier ruling. They argued that circumstances had changed. The SEC, now moving away from Gary Gensler's more aggressive approach to crypto, seemed ready to settle and walk away with a lower penalty. The proposal was simple: remove the ban on Ripple's institutional sales of XRP and reduce the financial penalty. But the problem wasn't in the request itself, it was how it was filed. Judge Torres said the parties used the wrong legal rule. They filed their request as a settlement agreement, but they were actually asking the court to vacate a final judgment. That requires a much higher legal standard under Rule 60 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. And as the judge pointed out, neither party made the case that these were the rare and exceptional circumstances needed to meet that standard. So, her message was clear. If you want to undo a final ruling, you need to follow the proper rules and provide a very good reason. That didn't happen here. But does this mean Ripple lost its case? Not really. Ripple's chief legal officer, Stuart Alderete, responded quickly. In a statement, he said, "This decision has zero impact on Judge Torres' July 2023 ruling that XRP is not, in and of itself, a security." He emphasized that the judge's rejection was a procedural setback, not a reversal of any legal victory for Ripple. In short, Ripple's win last year still stands. XRP is still not a security when traded on exchanges or between individuals. What remains on the table is the part of the case dealing with Ripple's past institutional sales, and whether that ban and the fine can be changed. This brings us to what several legal experts are now saying. Journalist Eleanor Terrett reported that many in the legal community believe Judge Torres is simply insisting on the proper process. She doesn't want to see 5 years of litigation brushed aside with a quick deal. Attorney John Deaton suggested that the court may see the SEC's sudden willingness to compromise as an attempt to avoid a full legal reckoning. He believes Judge Torres wants a stronger, more convincing reason before making major changes to a final ruling. In another legal voice, Fred Rispoli was even more direct. He said, "Ripple and the SEC try to take the easier path to end this, but now the hard legal road begins." So, where does that leave Ripple and XRP? Well, Ripple still holds a win. XRP's status hasn't changed, and both Ripple and the SEC still seem to want a resolution. But they now have to go through the correct legal process. That means refiling under the right rules, and probably providing more legal justification for why the earlier ruling should be changed. It's important to see this development for what it is. It's not the end of the road. It's just a reminder that even when both sides agree, the court doesn't just wave things through. The law has structure, and that structure must be respected. For XRP holders, this is more noise than crisis. Ripple isn't back to square one, but it does mean more court proceedings, more filings, and possibly more delays. Still, it's hard to ignore that the landscape has shifted. With new SEC leadership, the agency seems less interested in continuing a heavy-handed crackdown on crypto. If both parties want to settle, they likely will. Just not like this. So, while headlines about Judge rejects Ripple SEC settlement might sound dramatic, the real story is more nuanced. The judge is asking for proper legal work, not saying no forever. And Ripple's legal team, led by Stuart Alderete, seems confident they can regroup and try again. The road to a final settlement just got a little longer, but the destination hasn't changed. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more updates on XRP, Ripple, and everything happening in the world of crypto regulation.